Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we're going to be talking about historical accuracy in World of Warships. Now, I'm not talking about the ships that are being introduced into the game, but the parameters of some ships that Wargaming is willing to change or stay rock solid on. If I was talking about the ships they were introducing to the game, by that I mean some people say they need to stick with more historical ships rather than all these paper ships. And if I was going to talk about that, this video would go something like this.
Is totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a total fabrication. Never happened. This one was invented by a writer. It never happened. It's false. It never happened. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's an urban legend that never happened.
But what we're going to talk about is some certain parameters that they just won't change for some reason, or they're very reluctant to change over some others. And the biggest one that they by far are the firmest on by even, the standards of today, when they do some pretty big sweeping overhaul changes to some ships after they've been out for some time, like the British battleships, is speed. I don't know what it is with wargaming, but they are so hardcore on the speed of their ships that the California, for example, she is stuck at a top speed of 20 knots because historically that's how fast she would go. Well, they had to increase her range because, as stated in the notes, she had trouble getting into the fight quick enough because of her top speed, so they gave her more range rather than giving her like a 3 or 4 knot buff to her speed. Now, it would be easy to say, well, if they want to keep it within its historical parameters. Well, I mean, if they would keep half of these ships in this game within their historical parameters, they would be way different. A whole lot of them. Bismarck was actually pretty dang accurate in real life. And I'm not talking about how it one-shot at her. I'm talking about it was actually a pretty accurate ship in real life overall from what I've read and what I've dug into. And the American battleships, their turrets were designed to keep up with the turning rate of the ships. They would never outrun their turrets. The range in general of these ships, it wasn't just 24, 25 kilometers. It was actually sometimes 30 miles in some ships' case. Massachusetts, for example, the maximum range was 30-something miles, not 20-something kilometers. I'm not talking about how the conversion is different. I'm just saying how it was longer than what is actually portrayed in game. And, of course, these changes have to be made for game balance and game design. But I don't know what it is with wargaming and speed and why they just refuse to budge on it. I just remember Massachusetts range game is actually 18.1, not 20 kilometers. That's Kurfürst. I don't know why I had Kurfürst in the brain. My apologies. But anyway, speed just seems to be the thing that they will not compromise on, unless you're a submarine, and then you can go 4 times as fast as you historically went. And we've seen this with Yami. They nerfed Yami's speed down by 1 knot because some documents or some evidence came out that Yami's top speed was 27 knots, not 28. So they had to nerf that accordingly. Why? I don't know. And it's not like it would be a big deal for a ship like the California to have a 24 or 25 knot top speed at tier 7. Because you have the Gneisenau now and the Scharnhorst rocking and rolling out down there at like 30 knots. And you have, well, pretty much every ship, every nation's ship at tier 7, battleship that is, goes well over 20 knots. And I get that they're trying to say, this is what the Americans were doing. Yeah, I understand that. Because it is what the Americans were doing. We were still sticking with super dreadnoughts around that time period when everyone else was moving to fast battleships. I get that. But for sake of game balance, you can give a ship like California a 25 knot top speed. They've changed much larger portions, much larger elements of ships over the same thing. The Iowa got her Citadel Lord, same with the Montana. The whole upper British battleship tree, they got almost a pretty much a redesign uh, well after they came out. And again, those ships didn't really exist, so I'm just saying that they've done big changes before. And honestly, a 4 or 5 knot speed change wouldn't be that big of a deal, in my opinion at least, if it means just getting the balance right for the ship. Because my thing with historical accuracy is that game balance should take a priority over historical accuracy when you're going for a game like World of Warships. World of Warships is by no means a simulator. It takes the concepts of naval warfare and puts it into a very accessible arcadish platform. I mean, even though the scale is off in this game, a ship's supposed to be 1 or 2 kilometers away. It looks like I'm standing right next to it, or I'm sitting right next to it in the water. It's the scale shrunken down. The maps are nowhere near as big as they would have to be if this was a simulator. The way some of the ships handle and turn and maneuver is way too fast. And again, it's an arcade game. It shouldn't really matter that much. And again, I don't know why speed matters that much to the devs. And then you have a game like War Thunder, where it's kind of well, it's actually not the opposite. It's still very arcadey, but it leans more towards simulator than what a Warships does. And again, I'm not saying it's like a simulator. I'm saying it leans more towards being a simulator than what a Warships does. And you see there, the gameplay, it's very dull. It's very intuitive, but not in the right way, if you get me. And that's just leaning a little bit more towards simulator than what a Warships does. So you can imagine what a full-on naval simulator would be. I think like the closest game I've probably seen to that was a game called, I think it was like not Cold Waters, Dangerous Waters or something like that. It was an old PC game. It was with modern naval warfare, where you were locking onto targets way out there and launching ship-to-ship missiles and stuff. But that's an older game. That's another topic for another time. And again, you have to pretty much throw most of the historical accuracy out of the window when you're making a game like World of Warships. So speed, again, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but for some reason for wargaming it really is. Reload time isn't that big of a deal for wargaming. Having a magical reload booster where you can have a battleship that can cut down its reload time from 20 something, from like 20, what's the Jean Bar's base reload time, like 25 seconds down to around 10 seconds. You can have a magic speed boost, which I guess you could argue is theoretically possible in real life, but I doubt there was an actual engine boost in World War II. I'm not saying I don't 100% know for sure that wasn't, because there was some weird stuff going on in World War II that you don't read about until you really dig. But I'm pretty sure there was no magic turbocharger, turbo boost on most ships in World War II. There was no magic catapult launcher that can launch an entire squadron of planes off in one launch, and that apparently that's how fighters work now. So yep, all the stuff they add into the game that is arcadey. And again, that stuff, in my opinion, should take priority over historical accuracy. This is not a simulator. And I know I talk about a lot of times with HE spam, and if this battleship was really shooting at a destroyer, it would just basically vaporize it almost if it caught its full broadside. But I mean, that's just me talking and being frustrated about HE spam. When I'm not frustrated about HE spam, I'm actually kind of level-headed sometimes, and I understand that it's a game, it's required. And yes, if a destroyer was HE spamming a battleship in real life in World War II, it would do almost nothing to it. And again, that's why that has to be thrown out the window, because this is a game, and per game balance, you need to be able to do damage to a battleship when you're in a destroyer. So that's my 2 cents on historical accuracy in this game. I know a lot of people have pretty strong feelings about it, but again, at the end of the day, this is a video game. It's an arcade style video game. It's not a simulator, and I'm okay with historical accuracy being broken as long as it does maintain some aspects of how the ship performed in real life, which I do think they do a pretty good job with that in this game. Iowa, for example, is a fast battleship. Its guns are pretty accurate in my opinion. I know some people think that the Iowa's guns are actually really wonky, and I haven't had that issue. Iowa was my first tier 9, and still today, her guns and Missouri's guns are pretty accurate for me. And the Bismarck, they did a pretty good job of keeping her characteristics well armored. Um, Her guns, I think I mentioned this earlier. In real life, the Bismarck was actually fairly accurate, but again, to fit with that German line's characteristics of being abroad and having the best accurate guns, they had to tweak that. Well, actually, the guns actually are pretty accurate now after the buffs, so I guess they kind of succeeded there. And, so forth and so on. They did a pretty good job of, making the ships unique enough to where they have their own individual characteristics in the game while maintaining some aspect of historical accuracy. It's a pretty nice balance, in my opinion, actually. But again, just wrapping up, it's okay to break historical accuracy in the name of game balance, in my opinion, because you need it in a video game. And that's that. So, right, guys, that's my opinion on that subject. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And thank you guys for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful Monday. I hope to catch all of you guys in the next one.